This channel is all about helping people live in line with who they wish to be. So like, what would you say to that person?
You are wanting to start your own business, like do it early. It isn't that easy, you know. It is hard work, and you end up putting in a lot of hours. Slow and steady growth is a pretty prudent approach.
All right, welcome to the Perspective Immersion Experience. I am here with Trevor Golding. You're gonna see Joanna walk by because she's got some rebate stuff to do. Thank you for coming on the show and for being here. You're my first guest, so you're kind of the guinea pig of sorts.
It's all right. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So my question: you're obviously Gold Leaf is in the agriculture industry. Like, I know when I was 5-10 years old, I wasn't dreaming of being, a vertical farmer. How did you get into this industry?
Yeah, I think we kind of call it like controlled environment agriculture. So because everything that we do is indoor in a sense. Yeah, I think the way that I got into it was I've always been like a hobby grower. At one point I thought about starting a commercial greenhouse. I think the cost associated with building a commercial greenhouse, a high-tech commercial greenhouse in Canada, was a lot. And so I think, that kind of led me in a different direction, which ended up being supporting the greenhouse industry, which is what I'm doing now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what got you into this industry specifically? Like, what was the appeal? I know you said you were a hobby grower. Was there like a big kind of gap in the market?
Yeah, I think it was the energy efficiency piece. I started looking at LED lighting and just looking at how much money that business owners could save by switching to LEDs.
Yeah.
And so when we started out, we kind of did commercial industrial LED lighting, and then shortly after starting the business, we brought on the horticultural LEDs, and then now we're just exclusively doing horticultural LEDs and then vertical farming technology.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you guys actually set up these yourselves, or are you just kind of a distributor? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so we're a distributor. So basically, we help the growers find the right solution for their facility. We represent 4 or 5 leading LED manufacturers from around the world, and so we kind of go out and find great technology from overseas and then bring it to the Canadian market. And then part of our service obviously is helping them to get access to the government grants that are available.
So there's lots of government grants available?
Yeah, I think the mandate from the government is to kind of reduce energy consumption.
Yeah.
Sorry, my dog's just kind of...
Team mascot. What's your dog's name?
Chloe.
She's
the office mascot, I would say.
Love that. So kind of switching gears more into like the individual entrepreneurial side. Just when we were talking off camera, you seem very entrepreneurial, and you've always kind of had that entrepreneur spirit. Yeah. What kind of inspired you to want to be an entrepreneur? Like, what was the appeal of being an entrepreneur?
I think it's probably the creativity aspect. Like as an entrepreneur, you get to be creative. You get to kind of choose your own adventure, so to speak.
Yeah.
So you can make decisions to kind of guide where your business is going. And so I think that's what makes it really exciting for me anyway.
Cool. And what I find cool about the creative side too, like, I know I view creativity, we all view it very differently. Creativity can be music, can be art. In your case, it's like agriculture, horticulture, that kind of stuff. So what are some of the challenges that you faced as an entrepreneur? It's a very glamorized kind of, people don't want to go to university and that kind of stuff, but I don't think it's necessarily as easy as it might be.
I mean, you hear the stories of like the Bill Gates of the world dropping out of university to start a business and hitting it big, and it isn't that easy. It is hard work, and you end up putting in a lot of hours. You end up...
Well, I've heard that some people say you want to replace your 9 to 5 for freedom, but you end up changing it from a 9 to 5 to a 5 to 9. So you're just working all the time.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, in the beginning, it's like that. Once you kind of get the business a little bit more established, you can start to maybe hire on some additional resources to help you fill those gaps. But yeah, you definitely have to work hard to kind of establish your business in the beginning, and then you're always continuing to work hard to keep it going, right? And so there is a lot of challenges for entrepreneurs that people on the outside who aren't entrepreneurs don't really see. They really just see either the success or the failure, right? But they don't really see the whole journey, and it is really about the journey, in my opinion.
what's the journey about to you?
Like I think it is about building the relationships with your customers, your suppliers, with your staff.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes it worthwhile is the people, right?
For sure. How many people do you have on your team now?
We have 7, so 4 full time and 3 part time.
Okay.
We're so far we've been in business for about 6 years. We've added like a person per year. That's been our growth strategy. Pretty conservative.
Are you trying to scale that more and more year after year, or are you pretty happy with where you're at now?
I think we will. In the current business model that we're in distribution, I think, slow and steady growth is a pretty prudent approach. We are looking at maybe starting a second business doing crop nutrition and crop protection. So that's fertilizers and pesticides but all biologicals.
Okay. And would that be from a distribution standpoint as well?
No, like that's going to be manufacturing and then probably white labeling some products to round out our offering. And so from that side, if we start manufacturing, we will have to probably raise some capital and bring in some investors, because to just do that on my own is going to be a challenge, because there's a lot of costs associated with the equipment that we would need.
Yeah.
Well,
and as a small YouTuber, the intention eventually with these types of videos is that you can get those investors, you can get that traction.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm big enough yet, unless this is the video that puts me on the map.
No.
But eventually it would be cool, if we go down the line and you've scaled up your business, I've scaled up mine, to kind of be able to get you those clients and those shareholders and all that kind of stuff. That would be.
Yeah, and I think with anything, like, you've got to kind of build slowly over time. So with your YouTube channel and everything, if you're consistent in what you're doing, it applies to business as well. In YouTube, you were mentioning that you have to be you always have to be posting, you always have to be putting out content.
Yeah.
I think in my business, it's the same thing. We have to be consistent in the way that we treat our customers, in the way that we treat, our staff. And if we do that and we go about things the right way, then hopefully we'll just, grow organically over time,
Yeah. Well, I feel like growing organically is a good segue into kind of what the operation looks like from the standpoint of producing fruit and different plants and all that kind of stuff. What's the advantage of having your company involved as opposed to, there's so many different types of farms and stuff around the world. Why is it good to have these vertical farms kind of within Canada?
Yeah, so there's kind of 2 segments. There's the vertical farm, which is growing in let's say a warehouse. They retrofit that into a stack system or into a tower system, where they're trying to maximize the use of space and trying to be hyper local, right? Okay. And so I think the intention of those farms is to really reduce the food miles, so the amount of miles or kilometers that the food is traveling. So right now we're really relying heavily on imported produce, especially in the winter months.
Yeah.
And so the goal of those operations is to really reduce the amount that we're importing and provide that locally.
Okay.
And there's lots of benefits obviously associated with local produce, right?
Yeah, it would be fresher. And does that come at a higher premium price wise, or is it?
I think the cost of manufacturing almost anything in Canada compared to, let's say, Mexico or the southern United States is probably higher. But I think
do the import costs offset that?
Not really.
Not really.
No, I don't think there hasn't been tariffs necessarily slapped on food, like there has been with some other products. But I think where there's benefits for Canadians buying local is it's fresher because it hasn't traveled for a week to get up here.
Yeah.
And then also, you're supporting a local business, which is always good because you're creating jobs. And then obviously the amount of time that the produce will last. So from the time you purchase it, if it only took 2 days or a day to get from farm to the grocery store, and then you purchase it, you're going to have a lot longer longevity before it spoils. Whereas a lot of the stuff that's traveled a great distance to get here, you might purchase it and it might spoil within 2 to 3 days. So
yeah, and so I know a lot of people don't like having pesticides and stuff on their food to keep them fresh. You see that with apples and people paying more for organic stuff. Do you not need those pesticides just because you are sourcing locally?
Well, when you grow in a vertical farm, the concept is that it's more locked down in terms of pest and disease, right? So oftentimes there'll be like an airlock. So you've got all your gear. You change your clothes. You put something on your shoes, or you change your shoes.
Yeah.
You might wear a hairnet. So they're really trying to prevent pests and disease getting into the facility, so that they can grow the product without the exposure to those pests and diseases. So by controlling the environment, you can also you also get a certain level of biocontrol there. And so by doing that, you don't have to use the pesticides and herbicides and fungicides that they'd have to use in outdoor production.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. So how did you come up with the name Gold Leaf Technologies? Because I'll be honest, when I first heard it, like with cannabis booming in Canada, I thought Gold Leaf sounds like the perfect name for like a nice marijuana company.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's not what it is.
No.
Does it have to do with like your last name being Golding, or?
So the leaf actually was originally supposed to be symbolic of energy efficiency. So when you think of energy efficiency, like the leaf has always been kind of a symbol of energy efficiency.
So it's like a gold standard of energy efficiency.
Exactly. And the gold, obviously my last name is Golding, so I pulled that from there.
Yeah.
And the technologies, the reason why we didn't call it like gold leaf lighting or specify a certain product is because I always knew that we were going to really look at technology from technology always evolves, right? And so as it evolves, I want to be able to go out and find new solutions that I can bring to growers. And so that's why we didn't pigeonhole ourselves as just lighting, because we want to be able to bring new and innovative solutions to Canadian growers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And is that kind of part of your plan to scale, is to find these new technologies and kind of evolve that way as well?
Yeah, I think so. Like, we obviously don't want to bring, too many new products on board, because then you can't really focus on anything. So we're kind of pretty selective in how we choose our partners. It has to obviously be a company that has a good reputation. The technology has to work. That's a key thing. And and then once we establish that they're a good company to work with, their technology works, is there a fit for us? Is it a complementary product to what we're already offering? Those are kind of the things that we look at when we're evaluating or vetting our suppliers.
Yeah, and I think there's kind of a key lesson in there too. I think especially as a young entrepreneur myself, like it's very enticing to want to just take any offer that comes your way, but being selective is probably better in the long term. Would you agree with that? Or
yeah, there's always that shiny thing, right? There's always that new and shiny thing that can be a distraction. I think one of the challenges of being an entrepreneur is most entrepreneurs are like, they're innovative people. They're looking for new and innovative solutions, right? Or I guess in your case, looking for new ways to kind of like promote your channel and stuff like that. And there's probably like a million different ways that you can go with that, but it's choosing the right avenues to pursue.
It's very challenging, I find. You want to have similar types of content, but you also want to experiment, and so finding kind of that balance can be very challenging for sure.
Yeah.
Have you had any like shiny coin stuff, or have you been pretty diligent in focusing on technology?
There's some mistakes that I've made over time. I mean, you're going to make mistakes. It's normal.
Yeah.
I've selected partners that maybe haven't been the right partners. I had a big partner early on that went bankrupt and kind of left us hanging.
Okay.
So that was a challenge that we had to kind of, we had to weather that storm a little bit and get through it.
Yeah.
I think you just got to try and stay focused on one or two or maybe a few things. You can't go in too many different directions, right? Like you gotta keep your focus on the goal that you're trying to achieve. So in this case for us, it's really helping growers to be more efficient, right?
Yeah. And would you say hiring is a big part of that focus? Like if you hire someone who does your accounting or who does they find new clients and stuff, like is that a big part of how you can scale, is just finding the right partners who kind of embody your vision?
Yeah, I think so. Like obviously your philosophies have to align with your partner's philosophies, right?
Yeah. What is your philosophy?
Well, our philosophy is basically to be like a good company to deal with, and to bring value to the table, if you're not bringing value to the table, well, then you're not really offering anything, right? So the solutions that you provide have to provide value. Like that's first and foremost, right? There has to be an ROI for the customer, right? In our case, and I think in your case it's probably a lot different because you're doing like promotion and
I think it's different, but I think at the core it's the same. Like at the core of everything, you want to provide value to your customer.
Yeah.
And so like if I create a video that's not engaging, then that's just a disservice to the customer. So
yeah,
obviously you've given some great answers for entrepreneurs and people like that. So this channel is all about helping people live in line with who they wish to be. So if you went back to my age, I'm 23, or even younger, like someone who's just graduating high school, like what would you say to that person for how they can live in line with who they want to be?
I would say like figure out what you really want and then chase that dream. Like I worked in professional sales for 10 years, and I was always wanting to start my own business, and I kind of waited to do that because there was always a reason not to just cut the cord, so to speak, and go off on my own. So I would say like if you are wanting to start your own business, like do it early. Get a little bit, like it doesn't hurt to get a little bit of experience in the working world and have different experiences that you can kind of take with you. But if you find something that you're really passionate about and you really love, then go for it.
Well, and one of my favorite quotes, it's actually from Pixar. They say to fail fast.
Yeah.
And so just the quicker you fail, the quicker you can learn. And I feel like that's just entrepreneurship. Like I was big into screenwriting at one point, and they say you want to take off like the bubble wrap of your character and beat them with the stick. I feel like that's what happens to entrepreneurs. Like you're constantly just putting out fires, dealing with challenges. Like, do you enjoy that aspect of it, or is it a little bit nerve-wracking?
I think over time you get better at it, right? And you gain a higher tolerance. Yeah. So like you get shit kicked here and there, and then you peel yourself off the mat, and usually like the process of peeling yourself up off the mat when you make a mistake or you learn a hard lesson. You just are able to bounce back quicker, right? And so and over time, like you maybe just gain a higher tolerance to things that at the beginning of my business, like that, like let's say an issue when I first started the business, is much things that I viewed as an issue then are maybe not issues now. They're just minor things now. So
you definitely do develop that tolerance for it. Eh?
Like a thicker skin, so to speak.
Yeah. And would you say needing to learn how to deal with failure and setbacks is a big reason lots of people aren't willing to make the jump into entrepreneurship?
I think so. It can be scary at times, right? And it can also be a little bit lonely because you're, if you're like a solopreneur, then you're going at it alone, right?
Yeah.
So I think like surrounding yourself with good people, having maybe a mentor or a coach that can kind of help you work through that is a big
that's huge. I mean, I found that just on YouTube. I've been doing it for almost 2 years, and it's been mainly by myself. And so doing content like this, getting to chat with people like yourself, like it's very nice not to be alone in it,
Yeah.
Were you a solopreneur when you started out?
I was, for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then my dad actually joined me for a few years.
Teddy. Teddy is the absolute
best.
A beaut. Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah. So he joined me for a few years, and then Johanna, my wife, joined the business after about 3 years in business because I really needed somebody with her skill set, and so it just
What is her skill set?
Well, she's better at the fine details, I would say. So, marketing. She can help out. She helps out with a lot of the admin work as well. Like we kind of share that load.
Yeah.
And just generally keeping things organized within the business. So
cool.
She helps out a lot with that. But yeah, I needed somebody with that skill set to kind of complement my skill set, which is more like dealing with people and getting out there and speaking with growers and doing more of the sales and support for customers.
Cool.
Yeah.
So kind of walk me through the dynamic of having your wife be a part of your team. Like I'm sure that comes with, I'm sure it's amazing, but it's also, is it hard to turn off the work head when you go home, or are you able to find that separation?
I think during the week it's maybe a little tougher because you're in it.
Yeah.
Once you get to the weekend, it's like, okay, let's kind of shut off and enjoy the weekend with the kids. It has its challenges, but it also has its perks as well because we have flexibility in our family schedule. Like if our kids have, certain things going on at school and Johanna wants to volunteer, for example, then she has that flexibility to do so. So, working together has its challenges. I mean, your folks work together.
They do.
So they would probably know all about that as well. But
I don't think quite as closely as you two, but it's definitely.
Yeah.
They're in a business that has probably like 200 employees, whereas here it's a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit smaller.
A little smaller for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I mean, ultimately, it's it works for us. I mean, we've done it for years and we've done it successfully. So.
Well, and that's what people say. Like, if it makes sense to you, it doesn't need to make sense to anyone else. And it sounds like you've kind of found your formula here. So.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you coming on. I know you're a busy guy. I don't want to take up too much of your time. So this is the Perspective Immersion experience. If you also have a business and you ever wanted to come on and do an interview like this, or I'm experimenting with formats. I'm open to feedback, whether it's like day in the life, interview style, following different employees around or whatever. So, no, but thank you for coming on, Trevor.
Thanks, Sam.
Yeah,
appreciate it, man.
It was a pleasure. And hopefully, this will be the first episode of a few, but
yeah. Right on.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.